Go home! Pinkwashing has got to go! Hey! Hey! Go home! Pinkwashing has got to go!
Pinkwashing is the action of using LGBTQ+ related issues in positive ways in order to distract attention from negative actions by an organization, country, or government. One obvious example of such a propaganda is the so-called State of Israel. The Israeli government used this propaganda strategy that cynically exploits LGBTQ+ rights to project a progressive image while concealing Israel's occupation and apartheid policies oppressing Palestinians. For decades, Israel's colonial and apartheid regime has robbed, oppressed, ethnically cleansed, imprisoned, and killed Palestinians, queer and non-queer alike. LGBTQ+ communities are seeing through the pink smokescreen. There is growing awareness that queer and trans liberation cannot be separated from Palestinian liberation.
Pinkwashing is when a certain government or entity pretends to be friendly towards the LGBTQ plus community and pretends to support them in order to achieve a certain agenda, in order to distract. It's used as a distraction from certain things that they're doing that they don't want the public to see.
So now, the obvious question is, why? Why did Israel resort to pinkwashing?
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of pinkwashing?
The first thing that comes to mind when I think of pinkwashing is the Israeli government, because they are masters of it. They pretend to be completely supportive of the LGBTQ plus community, like Israel as a whole, when in reality that's not the case. There are lots of crimes committed against members of the community, and their society just generally isn't that friendly towards them. They just, like, the government promotes Israel as the LGBTQ plus haven in the Middle East, when in reality it just isn't the case. They're just using it as a distraction.
So, what do you think the main reason behind it is?
The main reason is obviously to distract foreigners and the international community from the war crimes they're committing against Palestinians. They want this image of them as the friendly people. Like, they're the most friendly in the Middle East. They're the most open. They're the most, So that's probably why, just to make the other countries look bad, even though they're not really that much better towards the LGBTQ plus community. They just want to distract foreigners from what they're doing to Palestinians by promoting themselves as LGBTQ plus friendly.
According to Stuart Hall, the media's source of power is the production and transformation of ideologies. And as mentioned before, Israel's exploitation of LGBTQ+ rights, known as pinkwashing, works to shift attention away from Israel's regime of occupation and apartheid. Israel's pinkwashing agenda seeks to broadcast equality and freedom ideologies to portray itself as a fun-loving gay haven, while using racist ideologies to depict Palestinians as homophobic, regressive, and violent. For instance, this is similar to how Hollywood vilifies the Arab by repetitively integrating twisted narratives that would create manipulated stereotypes. In addition, Israel is often allied with right-wing homophobic organizations that promotes its pinkwashing agenda worldwide through lobby groups. However, the impact that this propaganda had on the LGBTQ+ community has been positive. It helped spread awareness about what's happening in Palestine, and many actions have been taken.
What do you think the impact was after maybe realizing that Israel is actually pinkwashing?
I feel like there are two impacts of this. First, I feel like the people who are actually knowledgeable about this issue, who already know about this issue, who already know how Israel is, what Israel does, I feel like they would feel used and disgusted, and they would just be against the Zionist regime even more. However, I feel like there's a positive aspect to it, somewhat a positive aspect, where when people realize that this PR, this advertising themselves as friendly towards the community when in reality they're not. Like when they realize the truth about this issue, they would start feeling more sympathetic towards Palestinians. They would start noticing that they're doing all of this good stuff as a distraction.
In fact, queer and trans groups are campaigning to counter Israel's pinkwashing efforts in order to build a more inclusive movement for the liberation of all oppressed communities.
How do you think people can take action towards this?
I feel like the main course of action when it comes to this issue is education. Especially here in Lebanon, we really can't do much about this issue except spread awareness. And really, if you think about it, people are seeing these war crimes committed against innocent civilians, Palestinians, over and over again, yet they keep supporting Israel. So I feel like no matter how much we try, no matter what we do, I don't feel like we can reach somewhere where there is enough action to do concerning this topic.